This video is mostly about changing the heater element in my DUET electric dryer by Whirlpool. There's also a section at the end to deal with moisture faults. The problem with my dryer was that the clothing tumbled, but they didn't dry. So first, the diagnostic routines that are part of this Whirlpool DUET dryer. Under the top panel of my electric dryer, there was a technical manual that showed how to get into the diagnostic modes. The part number for the technician guide is W10386307A, and I was not able to find this manual online. To get into the diagnostic mode, you have to touch 3 buttons 3 times in 8 seconds. Sounds complicated, but this is all it is. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, and on the third time, it's in diagnostic mode. And to get out of diagnostic mode, you hit the stop button twice. But there was no error code for the heater element, so I had to do a physical check. So remove the toe panel. There's just 2 screws there at the bottom. And then testing for resistance and continuity. And mine tested as infinite resistance and no continuity. So I concluded it was defective and ordered a replacement heating element and thermal cutoff kit comprised of a high limit thermostat and a thermal cutoff. First thing you do is unplug or make sure there's no power going to your dryer. Before I got started at the front of the dryer, I removed the flange heater box clip at the back. And to do that, you have to remove the top panel and then the back panel. And there's a sort of exhaust flange down at the back as well that you have to get behind. 3 bolts to take off of this one. And there's a little clip. Just needed a screwdriver to punch down on that. And now the heater box is free to pull out the front side. I closed up the back because I found it easier to work on this dryer putting it up on its back so I could look down. So just put it on a little table. It's extremely light. It's just awkward. But you got to make sure you don't compress the water connector or the exhaust. So be cautious of that if you do it the same way. Then I removed the connectors after I labeled them 1 through 6. 4 and 6 is a jumper, by the way. And just the one here. And it lifts right out because I had removed the clip at the back. And that's the thermal cutoff kit pieces at the top, and I'm just checking for resistance and continuity again, and it is defective. These 2 components were not defective, but I replaced them anyway since I had bought new ones, and I can just use them as spares. You have to remove these actually to get into the heater box to replace the element. There's 4 screws to remove there. They're all the same size throughout this entire appliance. And there's the old heater. There's little clips to pull up there. And there's the brake. Innocent looking enough. Install a new one. And the new components. Before returning the heater box, I wanted to check the thermal fuse and the exhaust thermistor just to make sure they're okay. The exhaust thermistor and the fuse are located just to the left of the heater box. They're very hard to see from the front. The fuse tested okay. I didn't show any video of that because my hand was in front of the camera the entire time. But the exhaust thermistor has a little chart of resistance in the technical manual, and you can see that mine falls right into the 60 degrees or 16 degrees category, so they both tested okay. Time to reinstall the heater box and reconnect the kit items. 1 screw and 6 connectors. There's only 2 screws on the toe panel. And then I went to the back and reattached the clip. Just as easy as clipping that in. This is a little miserable, but it's achievable. And then put this back together, plug it back in for the big test, into diagnostic mode first to see if there's any other problems. Clear. So I just selected a normal cycle and turned it on, and within 2 minutes my smoke alarm went off. It was sensing combustible products, which is a good thing, and that's because I was venting into the room. I noticed that the strain relief was not really doing a good job. Upon closer inspection, I saw that the clip was missing that should go in there, and it wasn't too much longer that I found the clip. Reattach that, just slides on. Put the top panel back on. Exhaust hose, and it was ready to go, ready to dry some clothing. And now I want to tell you about a self-inflicted error code. While I was going through the technician's manual and trying all the different diagnostic routines, I discovered that I had given myself an error code F3E7, which means the moisture sensor had shorted out. I had been following the diagnostic test on page 6, which toggles through the motor, heater, and water valve. And as part of this test, it squirts some water into the dryer. So looking at the dryer, I saw a bunch of moisture had accumulated, and I would say if I do this again, I would throw a towel down in there. So I had this error code, moisture sensor shorted, and the technician manual suggested going to page 18. So I went to page 18, and there's a bunch of instructions to follow, but essentially it's locate the sensor bar, which is here on the schematic and actually is part of the lint screen grill. It's at the back of this lint screen grill. You have to remove 3 screws at the front and 3 screws at the back. And you can see the moisture sensor strips are right there. There's 2 of them. And they are connected to a harness. And if you pull these out gently and just rest them there, they won't fall through. They can fall through, and then they're a little miserable to put back in. I could not remove the sensors from the grill, so I ended up just taking a cotton swab and drying the tops and bottoms, and it worked out fine actually. To clear the error code though, you have to let your dryer run. Mine took 10 minutes. It has to sense the water, and then it has to move on to the next stage from sensing to wet. The technical guide provides more troubleshooting if that wasn't the cause of the moisture sensor problem.